of those absolutist statements. All means all. Yet Genesis 6:9 says, Noah was a just man and perfect in his generations. Job 1:1 and 1:8 say that Job was perfect. The question to be asked is, how could these men be perfect if all have sinned? The common response to this query is that the word perfect should have been translated as complete. But that really doesn't change the difficulty. If they're complete, they're perfect. They are either complete or they're not complete. If they're incomplete, then they're not complete. And if they're incomplete, they are imperfect. The problem remains regardless. Changing the word is not going to solve the difficulty. Many apologists resort to these word games when they find themselves in difficulties of this nature. The 8th question on our pamphlet is covered rather extensively in the 19th and 20th issues of our publication. The question is, did Moses really write the Pentateuch, that is the first 5 books of the Bible, as fundamentalists claim, or was it penned by others? In light of the fact that the burial of Moses is related in Deuteronomy 34, 5-6, one would hardly expect Moses to be the author. How many people have provided a written account of the events surrounding their own funeral? That verse alone is sufficient to bring the whole theory of Mosaic authorship into doubt. The 9th question asks whether Solomon had 40,000 stalls for his horses, as is said in 1 Kings 4:26, or 4,000, as is stated in 2 Chronicles 9:25 of the King James Version, and whether he had 2,000 or 3,000 baths, according to 1 Kings 7:26 and 2 Chronicles 4:5, respectively. The common apologetic defense that somebody copied something wrong from the originals is wholly insupportable in light of the fact that the autographs no longer exist. How do they know it was copied incorrectly? The contradiction stands until they can prove otherwise. To attribute nearly every contradiction of this nature to a copyist's mistake is wholly insufficient and based on pure conjecture. If the conflict exists in the copies, then it's logical to assume it is present in the originals as well, absent evidence to the contrary. The burden of proof lies on him who alleges. The 10th question asks how the resurrection can be of any real importance when so many people rose from the dead throughout Scripture. The widow of Nain's son rose from the dead. Jairus' daughter rose from the dead. Elijah raised the dead son of a Shunammite. Lazarus rose from the dead. And many others followed suit. And all of these people rose from the dead before Jesus did. So by the time Jesus rose from the dead, this was actually a rather common occurrence. I would think it would have been met by a resounding yawn rather than amazement, followed by, so what else can you do? The usual apologetic response one can expect to hear in this regard is that the resurrection of Jesus is unique because Jesus never died again. All those who preceded him rose from the dead, but they all died again, whereas Jesus did not. At least that's the argument. This is nothing more than another attempt to shift the focus that is so prevalent in apologetic rationalizations. In 1 Corinthians 15:14 and 1 Corinthians 15:17, Paul clearly states that Christianity lives or dies on the resurrection. It's the resurrection that matters, not the fact that Jesus never died again. Moreover, how can biblicist be sure that these people died again when the Bible is silent in this regard? They are making an extra-biblical assumption. How do they know that they did not go straight to heaven like Elijah in the chariot? The 11th question is another factual contradiction about which there can be little dispute. Was Jehoiachin 18 years old when he began to reign in Jerusalem? And did he reign 3 months, as is stated in 2 Kings 24:8? Or was he 8 years old and reigned 3 months and 10 days, as we find in 2 Chronicles 36:9? In addition, did Nebuzaradan come to rule Jerusalem on the 7th or the 10th day of the 5th month, as is stated in 2 Kings 25:8 and Jeremiah 52:12, respectively? Like so many problems, these also are attributed to copyist mistakes. As you probably realize by now, one of the most common excuses one will hear with respect to many of the problems we have noted during several programs is that a copyist mistake was made. Somebody copied something wrong. The apologist John Halley, for instance, resorts to this subterfuge repeatedly in his book entitled Alleged Discrepancies in the Bible.